Hello, ladies. I hope that your day is going well and struggle love free. If you haven't already, please like the video, hit the subscription, and the notification bell so you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. In this video, I want to talk about take care and buyer beware, the high cost of plastic surgery gone wrong. In the news recently, Miss Jackie O, who was on the Wild and Out show, had passed away after complications from cosmetic surgery. And unfortunately, one of several celebrities who has passed away after having plastic surgery, cosmetic surgery, whether it be here or abroad. But there are many women who are not famous who have also passed away after having such a procedure. And one of the first stories that I talked about on this channel was about a young woman, who passed away after having cosmetic surgery. The procedure went wrong and she lost her life. And she was a mother. And her mother was now left without her child. Her children were left without their mother. And this is something that happens far more often than the general public may recognize or understand. And I think it's very important to talk about this subject because through Instagram and through TikTok and through so many different social media platforms, we see people who look amazing and they have had various procedures, and it seems very simplistic. And what can happen is that we can be lulled into underestimating the gravity of having these procedures and the impact that it can have upon our lives. And one of the recurring themes that I have seen in these various stories about people who have lost their lives, women in particular, that have lost their lives after having these procedures done, is that they so often are leaving behind a family. They're leaving behind children specifically who are now motherless. And I think that's a really important driver. It's a really important driver and catalyst. Although even if you don't have children, it's vitally important to really recognize the significance of what can happen if one of these procedures goes wrong, if there are complications, because this is a very serious matter. We don't see on social media so often, we don't see on social media what happens when there are terrible side effects and complications and problems and issues that arise. All we see is when someone has been nipped and tucked and they are, far thinner, or they have different enhancements that have been done, and we just see them looking fabulous. We see the end result, but we don't see when the surgeries go wrong and of the various complications, the healing time that it requires. And sometimes these women say that their bodies never go back to how they were before, that they deeply regret having these procedures because of the impact, the negative impact, and the consequences that have occurred in their life post-surgery. Anytime that we have surgery, it's a big deal. It's a major occurrence. I remember having to have surgery to remove fibroids, and this is very common for Black women, for us to have fibroids. We have a far higher incidence of dealing with fibroids in America than other ethnic groups of women. So I had to have my fibroids removed. And this is a major surgery, and you are under anesthesia while you're having this surgery, at least for mine. And when you read over the paperwork prior to having the surgery, it lists the different side effects that can occur. And the most grave and most serious, of course, includes that you may pass away. You may not survive the surgery. Now, that's very, very serious. And because of that, I have never been eager to have surgery when I realized the full gravity of the consequences that can occur with surgery. It's very serious business. And I think it's very important that we never underestimate the seriousness of the complications that can occur. Because when it goes great, it's great for that person if they achieve the desired effect. But when it goes bad, it can go really bad. And you have women that have gone to foreign countries and who have lost their lives after having these surgeries. And then not only are they never going to return alive to their family, but now their family is having to go to another country where there may be another language, primary language being spoken, having to navigate through another country, trying to get what help they may or may not be able to get through the U.S. Embassy or consulate or officials, and then having to not only now arrange a funeral, but having to make the arrangements to have their family member's body flown back to the United States. This is just a very complicated, grueling process. And I think it's something that is not only not thought about, but it's not analyzed, it's not assessed when people are going and having discounted plastic surgeries, but not just whether it's discounted, but just in general, because even under what you would consider the best of circumstances, there can still be complications. You can be right here in the United States. You can be going through someone who is board certified, and there can still be complications, because anytime that we are having surgery where our body is being cut open, that is a form of trauma. So yes, there are some people who have been able to have 10 and 15 surgeries and have had these remarkable results and seem to be in great condition in terms of their body and not have had major consequences. But then there are the various stories where something else has happened with another person where they have not had a great outcome. And we have to be very mindful of what are all of the consequences that can happen. Because see, we can have this surgery and we may have allotted X amount of dollars for the surgery, right? And then afterwards, what can happen is if there's consequences, there are not just, if something goes wrong, there are huge consequences. And it can not only mean that we have to have additional medical intervention, but we may be losing multiple days from work, might be weeks recuperating from the surgery. Have we calculated that? And I think in a lot of cases that hasn't been calculated. What happens if you have a complication and now you have to be hospitalized for an extended period of time, or you're unable to go back to work, you are homebound, you are bedridden, and you have children, for an example? Who's going to take care of them? Even if you don't have children, how do you financially stay afloat when you did not plan to have complications? And I think that that's something that is a recurrent theme where people are having to raise GoFundMes, take up GoFundMes to try to offset the financial losses that have occurred because of these surgeries gone wrong. You have people who don't have any sort of life insurance, aren't taking the possibility seriously that they may lose their life during this surgical procedure, unfortunately, or after, post-op, in recovering. We cannot know in advance how our body will respond to surgery, and even if we're in fantastic shape, the recovery may be more complicated than we expected because of what the body has gone through. There are various women who have passed away in recovering from the surgery. The most famous is probably Dr. Donda West, Kanye West's mom, but there are other celebrities who have passed away post-surgery. And there are women, of course, that are not celebrities who have passed away when they were recovering. They had a complication and they could not be saved. Their life could not be saved. So we have to take it very seriously and really think about why we're getting this surgery. Are we ready to assume all of the possible ramifications and consequences if something goes wrong, it does not turn out as expected? Is our family prepared? I would dare to say probably not. Most people's family most definitely do not want to see them lose their life over one of these procedures, and are going to have a very hard time dealing with the loss of their loved one due to having one of these surgical procedures. So we really need to weigh the cost. We need to have a buyer beware, a caveat emptor mindset in looking at all of the possible consequences if something does not go as planned. And we know that there are some procedures that are riskier than others. The BBL is the most risky procedure of all of them, that has incurred the most loss of life, the most complications out of all the surgical procedures for cosmetic surgery, plastic surgery. So we have to be very mindful about that. Underneath it all, what is our motivation? What is our motivation for getting these surgeries? One of the common themes that I have seen in these stories is that it's a woman who's given birth. She has given birth maybe recently, maybe very recently, feeling like she wants her body to snap back, but it's not snapping back quick enough. So wants to maybe to look better than she ever has. Maybe it's because she has a man in her life, and it may be her husband or not her husband, who she feels like does not find her as attractive as other women, or as she was prior to giving birth or gaining weight. So she feels like in order to keep his attention, I need to get this surgery. Or it may be that she feels like she wants to be an Instagram model, etc. She wants to look as good as these other women, and I have to get this surgery so that I can compete. It's very important that our self-esteem and our sense of worth is intact, because even if, let's say, the first surgery or the second surgery or the third surgery goes well and we don't have major complications, if we don't feel good about ourselves, if we don't have good self-esteem, if we don't know our worth and our value and God's purpose for us, we can get caught up in this never-ending cycle of always feeling like there's something else we need to fix with ourselves. So it may be that we need to speak with a licensed professional, therapist, along with prayer, about the issues that we are having. If we have these long-term issues that we have not addressed, about our esteem, about our looks, about not feeling like we measure up, about comparing ourselves to other women, which we should never do. Because each one of us is unique, we're beautiful, we have our purpose. We don't need to ever feel like we're competing with another woman. We should only be competing with where we were yesterday versus where we want to go. And that's the only competition we should have. So if we are in a space where we are not healed, it's important that we are healed, so that we can operate to our best capacity, and that we're not constantly feeling like I'm not good enough, I'm not enough, because we are enough. We are good enough. We do have value. We do have worth. And certainly, if we are feeling caught up in this endless cycle of not feeling good enough, and it's because a man that we are involved with does not feel like we're beautiful and is constantly comparing us to other women, then that's a relationship that we really need to analyze. Is this a relationship I should be involved in? Because a man who truly loves us and values us isn't comparing us to other women. He knows our worth. He knows our value. He accepts us. He's not constantly wanting us to change and to nip and tuck. And to just look personally, I had a man that I was involved with, and he had this way of making little remarks about my appearance. And just be aware that when someone is demeaning you, when somebody is denigrating you, they may do it through a breadcrumb trail of one thing here and one thing there. And that's what he would do. When I sat back and assessed it, it was like, you have a lot of comments about my appearance. If you don't like how I look, why are you even with me? And so he tried to minimize it, like, oh, I'm just really into fitness, and I just really want to make sure that you're at your best. But I won't mention it again, because it was at the point where I was like, look, I'm not going to be dealing with this in a relationship. So if this is how you feel and you're going to keep making these little comments and being passive aggressive, I'm not dealing with this. That came to an end, but there were other issues that arose that were why the relationship ended. And I think it's important for us as content creators to talk about our experiences and not act like we've never had issues and we've never had problems, because that's how we can talk about these issues and speak from an authentic place, because we've been there and done that. I have been a mammy before. I have been a pick-me. I had the pick-me spirit. Or I woke up and realize I'm in a non-reciprocal relationship and it's one-sided. So it's much better to speak from a place of experience where we have learned and we have moved on, so that we can all grow and be better and have enhanced lives and not live in that matrix anymore. But it's very important to recognize that if a man is pushing you to compete with other women and pushing you to look like Instagram models and pushing you to be something far different than what you are in terms of your looks and your appearance and is not accepting you, then that is a relationship that may bring you a lot of heartache and pain because he doesn't accept you as you are. And it's nothing wrong with wanting to be healthier, with wanting to have wellness. When it comes to enhancements, it gets more complicated. Now, if it's a minimal enhancement that's non-surgically invasive, then that can be pretty simplistic. But if we're looking at having an enhancement and we already feel good about ourselves, then that's great that we're already in a space where we feel good about ourselves. And this is something where we just want to look a little better. But we have to seriously weigh what the outcome could be, what the risks are that are involved anytime it involves surgical procedures. Let me know what you think in the comments beneath the video. As always, be blessed, continue to level up, be well aware of the costs that come with cosmetic surgery and the ramifications and the side effects. It's important that we are well versed, that we well assess it, and that we are well aware of what we are venturing into.